Hello, and welcome to the Audio Time Capsule, episode 6. For those of you new to the show, I'm comedian Simon Kane, and this is the podcast where I bring on a guest, get them to leave 20 questions, and then bring them back on a year later to answer them. I then edit it so they're talking to their past self. All past voices will sound like this, and all future voices will sound like this. To give you an idea of how the show's structured, here is an example question that I recorded just before meeting up with this week's guest. Simon, your favourite chocolate bar is Toblerone, but at the moment, it was sort of halfway through the Edinburgh Fringe, you seem to be buying a lot of munchies. Have you grown out of Toblerone? Is it still your favourite chocolate bar, or are you now a munchie lover? That's not the right way of saying it, but is Munchies your new favourite chocolate bar? Munchies is not my new favourite chocolate bar. They're not even a bar, they're sort of mini bites, aren't they? I still love Toblerone. I sort of stopped buying it about a year ago, or I didn't stop buying it a year ago. I slowed down buying it a year ago when they reduced the bar size, which annoyed me because they claimed it was to do with Brexit. We all know it's profit driven, isn't it? So yeah, I stopped buying it because I was getting frustrated, and I was buying a lot of munchies, and I'm still buying a lot of munchies, but I'm also now buying a lot of Toblerone and just resenting the fact that I'm now paying the same amount for 350 grams that I used to pay for 400. Thanks a lot, Nestle. I think it's Nestle. I'm not sure. If it's not Nestle, I'm sorry. Cadbury's. Whoever it is that make them, thanks a lot for taking away a lot of my chocolate. Although, to be fair, I do eat too much of it, so you're actually probably helping me out. But it's my choice, not yours. Nanny state. In this episode, I got on comedian Russell Hicks to discuss how his life, his career, and his worldview have changed in the last year. This is a really reflective episode, and it was really interesting to see how his creativity has changed and how that's impacted on a lot of his life, as well as how he feels he's moved forward in a lot of areas in his life, including becoming a much more relaxed and laid-back person. There are moments in this where he gets quite frustrated with his past self, and that to me is quite interesting. I think it's quite telling about how we can get very annoyed by ourselves in a way that we might not with other people, or we can have a go at ourselves in a way that we might not with someone else because we want to save face or we want to look sane or whatever. This one was really interesting, and I really enjoyed putting it together. If you're new here, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. If you're old here, please do consider giving us an honest, ideally positive review in iTunes. And either way, please do join the Facebook group where you can find out about future guests and get exclusive behind the scene content and find out loads more that is going on with this project. It's called the Audio Time Capsule, and it's on Facebook, of course. You can also follow us on Twitter at Audio Time Travel. But for now, let's open the time capsule of Russell Hicks.
Hi, my name is Russell Hicks. Today's date is August 18th, 2016. I am currently sat inside the suite venues at the Apex Hotel. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling very calm and satisfied. Yeah, within 0.2% of my goal satisfaction, of where I like to be. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Russell Hicks. It is August 12th, 2017. I'm sitting inside of the same studio that I was in a year ago. It's all feeling very, very eerily similar. And it's very early in the morning for the middle of the Fringe. But, and I'm feeling really good about these questions that I'm about to answer from myself to myself, about myself.
Hi, Russell. You're a year older now. Do you feel like you're finally performing at the level that you feel most satisfied with? God, this is wanky.
Yeah. You'll be happy to know, buddy, when you get here 12 months down the line, that I think something that I realized this year, I was having a hard time. I think for me personally, I think every comedian has got his own personal demon that he has to get over that can kind of inhibit their progress and inhibit their enjoyment of it. And for me, it was just paralyzation through analyzation. And I think that, I don't know, at some point in the year, I just started to enjoy the experience of just going on stage without needing or any kind of result, which is a direct obstacle to enjoying doing any sort of live performance at all. If it starts to become to this point where you have to be this way, you have to do well, you have to, be like this. You really can only do something especially as pure as like live stand-up. You can only do it by going into it completely ready to, I guess for lack of a better term, just die. And that kind of pure giving yourself to it is what makes for the best experiences. And like honestly, I've just completely relaxed through not analyzing it afterwards or not. I can hear it in your voice, mate. You're thinking too. It's like that Bob Dylan song, "Little Boy Loves takes himself so seriously." You really just need to relax, stop thinking about it, and you'll be okay. But good news, you do. And this has been like the funnest run ever, man. Just having great shows every night. So yes, I do, buddy. Well, there's more relaxation and more into it. I'll be at the whatever that peak level is. It's funny. I'll make this quick. Just the idea, listening to that, me ask myself. He's got this idea. Part of the problem is that he said he thinks there's this perfect level that you have to get to, and I think the idea of that is an obstacle in itself. So just be, man. Yeah. So yes. Yeah. Totally happy performing like at a level I'm happy with. So that's a good one. Yeah.
Also, Russell, have you put out that short book that you've been writing forever that you meant to put out this year?
No, but I found it in our sister's garage, the original manuscript that I wrote when I was before I was a comic and I was working in an office, and I kept it under our bed for 6 months because I was scared to read it and see how unbelievably bad it probably was going to be. I'm not afraid to admit, and this is not a normal thing for me, but I looked at it and I've read like a couple pages of it, and it actually annoyed me that I seem to have been a much better writer back then. So I'm going to do it soon. The only reason we haven't done it is I want to write it. I want to go to France and write it because we always decided that we were going to do that. So it's still on the burner. Hasn't bothered. I haven't seen it as any kind of failure that we haven't written it yet, because believe it or not, man, trying to turn around a novel in a year, I mean, bless your heart, but that was a pretty big endeavor you set for yourself. So not yet, but we got the manuscript. It's in the works, man. It's in the works. You can't rush these kind of things. I mean, you got to consider this is going to be the great American novel of all time. So written outside of America. So no, not yet, but we will.
Did you put out the comic book version of that set that you had that you gave to the guy to illustrate and turn into a comic book that you thought would be a good idea to have a comic book version of a set that you said you'd put out?
Okay, you know what, mate? Why don't you get off my back with all this stuff that I haven't done, okay? What have you done? Nothing. How do I know that? Because you're me, and we haven't done it. But we decided not to do that, which is amazing, because essentially what that comic was going to be was a graphic novel representation of a horrendous set that I had done at a really clubby comedy club. And that's just an indication of where you're at right now, where you just focus on that one night so much that you want to do this, like you want to make this modern oil painting of it so it can live on forever. Quite honestly, I've forgotten all about that, and I'm bored of it. But what I have done is I committed to that idea. I do want to do a comic. So I had a script lying around. You know this, the one that we have about being at the Fringe, and it's kind of a pulpy thing about a guy who he punches someone at Leighton Live, and then the guy tries to sue him. So to get out of trouble, a big mainstream comic says, I'll give you the money to get out of it, but you got to kill all the critics in Edinburgh. And it's like a noir, just silly, overdone thing. I had a script for that I tried to sell to somebody who they didn't want it, rightfully so. We read that afterward, and yeah, oh boy. But shaved it down. I gave it to an artist, and they are, as we speak, turning that into a comic book right now. And I am probably going to sell that next year or put it online this year for sale. So, and the reason that we're not using the show is, like, I just realized it's a funny idea to do a comic book rendition of your performance, but in actuality, after looking at it, I was like, this is really boring. So we're taking the script, because as I looked at that script and shaved it down to just 15 pages, It's got a storyline, and it suits a comic book much better. So that is actually in the works, man.
Have you gotten on television this year?
I don't know why you laughed like that at the end. It's almost as if it's a bad sign when yourself recommends something like that, suggests that, and then laughs in your own face as if it could happen. Well, define TV. If you mean TV in the terrestrial sense, the commonly accepted TV, no. But one thing that I realized this year is you reap what you sow. If I look at the things that I have or have not done, I have to ask myself, well, what have I done for that specific thing? And the answer is nothing, really. And then when you ask yourself, well, why haven't I done anything for that specific thing that I think I want? I think sometimes you figure out, well, maybe you don't actually want that. And then, so I think this year I did a lot of that. I was like, there's all these things that, people want and they purport to want, but they're not doing anything for it. And the answer probably is that they want something that thing can give them, but they don't actually want that thing. So in this year, rather than see, I got to get on TV because this will happen, which, by the way, I don't know what would happen. That's the thing. You think you're going to get these things, and then all this stuff is going to, but you don't know what. Like, I want to win the Edinburgh Award. Why? Because then everything is just like some magical rainbow road gets paved for you, and you don't even have to worry about it. So what I did instead is I started to think, well, what do I want to do, and what can I do right now? And I think actually when you ask yourself those basic questions, for example, let's take the Edinburgh Award. You say, what do I want out of that? You have to take validation out of it. A lot of people want to win that for validation. That's a silly thing. It's the same kind of thing that leads people in Hollywood to have massive pools and mansions and still feel sad about themselves, because validation is ephemeral. It's fake. It doesn't do anything. But you can get money from the award, and that sounds like a superficial thing, but in reality, that's not a bad goal to go, oh, that's a practical thing. So if that's what you're thinking, well, how can you get money right now? I mean, if you're talking about getting money from your art, that's actually something you could do right now. And I realized that, and I started to think, well, I should create things. I should put things out. With all this talk of comics and books, I was like, I've never put any stand-up out. So I decided to record every show at the Fringe this year and put that out, and that's a way to kind of create something I'm proud of that also supports me outside of the festival, on a broader scale. Because, I mean, let's not forget, there's the festival, which is amazing, but then there's also, like, and I don't want to say career, but just doing comedy and making your art for your life. So you should also think in that sense, as well. So, I mean, no, I didn't really get on TV, but I haven't been wanting for it either, because I understand a lot of TV. I get it. They have jobs, and they need to, when you put something on television, you're making it for a mass audience. And when you have 20 people who are going to give you a script and say, this is exactly what I say on stage, this is, and they're funny, who's going to put their job on the line for a guy they don't know at all, with the chance that he's going to go up and say something, crazy? So I don't blame them at all. So no, well, I did a bunch of commercials though. Yeah, and between the time of at the time of this interview, I don't even have a commercial agent. I'm not even doing commercials. And you booked 3 of them this year. Actually, mate, you did get on TV this year. Never mind. Yeah, you did, just not in the way that you thought. Yeah, congrats. You're on TV for probably 10 seconds total. But the money was all right.
Here's a good one. This one kind of goes with the first one. This is so important for me. This is the most important. If I'm honest, I don't really think in projects. I really don't. I think in terms of how I feel on stage, it's the most important thing. This is a very personal thing, too. This is very awkward to say it. Do you feel like you are, for lack of a better term, blowing your mind on stage again, feeling excited, falling in love with it again, wanting to be up there? That's something I'd like to really get back to. That's what I mean about being within 0.2%. There was a very awkward thing for about a year where I was just off kilter. And I just, you know what I mean? I just felt like I would just come out on stage. And I was doing these really, really mainstream clubs, too. And so that's not where you want to find your artistic legs. If you're struggling, that's not a conducive environment to. But I'm feeling great now at the festival.
Oh, God, mate. That is personal when you say that. But, well, the good news is, yeah, definitely. I mean, you are just in your head. Big time right there. I can hear it in you. Since I improvise a lot, and although I've never been in an improv troupe, and the same rules apply. I mean, the worst thing you can do is like be inside your mind and thinking about your next move. So what I love about my style of stand-up, and maybe this is the same for everybody, is that through figuring out how to make the mechanics of your set work on stage, I find that the truer it is to who you are up there, those same mechanics tend to be the kind of things that you should have implemented in your whole life to make that an easier situation to experience as well. Like, I feel like if you, if I look at how I conduct myself, off stage and maybe in the past or something, that really all comes down to that, being too analytical, too in your head, too just existentialism to the utmost degree. And so there's a great line in the movies that probably shaped our existence more than anything, which is Back to the Future, where you remember when Doc Brown gets shot by the Libyans in the end, and he opens his shirt, and he's got the bulletproof vest. And what does he say? Because Marty says, what about all that talk about the space-time continuum and blah, blah, blah? And Doc was so adamant about it, and his answer to Marty was, well, I just thought, what the hell? Now, I mean, what he really should have said there is fuck it. But the same thing applies, man. It's just fuck it. And I think I came to that. I think that through creating things, like I said, putting things out, opening yourself up a little bit more, like you just get to that fuck it point, and it's a beautiful thing, man. There is no future, there is no past. There's only what's happening right now, and you're really doing no service to yourself by analyzing any moment that isn't the one you're in right now. Just when I thought I couldn't get wankier than the original question. But also, I don't have a plan. And I think maybe we confused the person who's running this podcast the first time, because you get a lot of people with 5-year plans and stuff like that. That's fine if they want to do that. I believe more in putting myself in a just having an energy in this moment. If the energy that I've got now is positive and like it's creative, and you can feel it when you're in that sort of that space. I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I know that it'll be okay, and I'm going somewhere. And that's kind of how I've conducted myself to this point. And I mean, it's led me to the Sweets venues for the second time, talking to myself in the presence of a lovely man. So we're all right. So yeah, dude, had some shows this year. Yes, you'll be happy to know, man. With that attitude, with the loss, there's no without fear. Excuse me. Without death, there is no fear, and that's the way it goes in life. So the same goes with comedy, and to be able to walk into every set now without any sort of fear, because I know there's going to be no reprisal of myself if I don't perform to this expectation. The shows have been amazing. I had a show last night at my solo show. Definitely several times at this festival, man, I've hit that beautiful moment where you're just like completely in sync. There's no thoughts in your head, and you're with the audience and you're improvising something, and it's amazing. So yeah, man, comedy's fun. It comes in waves, and we're riding one now. So relax, pal. You'll be okay. Less coffee.
All right. The problem is I'm just so stellar in all those categories. Here's something that I only in the last 2 years have decided, I've never put any energy into that. Maybe I should try. Did you save that amount of money that you said that you would try to save for this year, and also pay off that thing that you wanted to pay off, which I bet you have because you're so good at goal setting? I just compliment myself, and it's good self-esteem. I was depressed there in high school for a bit. This is nice. Listen to me talking to me.
Yeah, well, you nailed it, bro. You know yourself. Yeah, we did it. And good on you. Yep, paid that thing off and saved the amount of money that we said we would do. Good on you. Good on you, friend. And yeah, we were depressed in high school. What normal human being wasn't? I say get it over early, and then the rest of it is sweet. Yeah, we did it, man. Yeah, good for you. Saved it, paid it. Credit card. Yeah, my credit card got out of control again, and I was just like, so all I wanted to do was have a certain amount in my savings account. Here's the thing I think happens to comedians when you're like, when you start doing it and you're getting a little bit of a living on it, it's great because it can make you also get practical in areas that you have always been completely horrendous at. And, you know, I think an artist, when they start to support themselves, they get a little, not too much. It's not like we love money or anything, but you get an element of like, okay, I want to maybe, you know, be able to, at the worst case, be living in Spain like Hemingway or something, get a little bungalow. So you start to learn how to save. And yeah, I probably paid off like, it was like $5,000 or something like that, which I was on track to pay it off. I wasn't scared about it, but I did it. And yeah, and then savings account is up there pretty much more money than I've ever had in my life. Yeah, sometimes I think it can help to do practical things because it's such a opposite part of your brain that is used than the overthinking constant artist brain. I don't know. So yeah, definitely, man. Happy with that. Good boy.
Have you pursued and achieved any kind of acting? I would like to, in the next year, make some headway as far as, I look at stand-up as like in college in America, you have major degrees and minor degrees. I would like to get a minor. Stand-up's my major, but a minor would be acting in something cool, something I really like. So to at least be scratching the surface as far as that goes, because I don't think I've put any effort into that. Have you made any progress with that? That'll be an interesting one, because I definitely think I'm looking forward to try and do more of that.
Well, I mean, you booked those commercials. You booked which was a surprise because I didn't know I was going to do commercials ever again. Because, you know, you did them in LA and it was like, but you did 3 commercials, bang, 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 right in a row. And I think that the way that I told myself, I kind of made it okay, was being in the audition room and all that, that's like a whole different skill, and it's kind of fun to master it because I think in a way it's more uncomfortable for a comic to be in that close quarters, and especially with that kind of blatant judgment. At least for me, like my natural way of conducting myself in an audition is like, it used to be like I just wanted to scream at them and kick their cameras over because I just can't stand to be judged like that. That's why I would never be on Britain's Got Talent, because like if David Williams even looked at me wrong, I would just jump off the stage and start punching people. So, but I learned how to conduct myself in that, and you really get in a groove with it. And yeah, I booked those 3 things right in a row, and it was really exciting, and it definitely got me hungry for like real acting stuff. But no, not yet, man. And I think that the only reason for that is you've got to take yourself to that, like I said, to that world and find those, you know, who's doing that kind of thing and get into it. But maybe film something on my own. So a little bit more than I had back then, but nothing like a movie or anything like that. But maybe for next year, because I mean, you just have to, like, you have to dissect those things and figure out. I definitely don't have this attitude anymore where I sit around and go, why haven't they just found me? I live in Acton. Don't they know to come knock on my door and go, hi, we're making a movie. Do you want to be in it? You got to go to their door and you got to find out who does it. What's the process? How do you get into it? Who's in charge of running these things? And they might like you if they find you. So do a little sleuthing work and we'll figure that out. So a little bit, mate, a little bit.
Now, this is one I'll ask myself, but I don't know that I'll follow through with this. I don't have that much faith in myself with this, and I also don't think that this constitutes a failure at all. Because sometimes I get really motivated for this, and then I realize that's not really something I want to do. But, hey, buddy, if you haven't done this, you know, no shame from me here. I understand. But have you tried harder at this at all? Have you put any more effort into this, and have you accomplished building more of a following, making yourself more accessible, possibly getting over that deep, innate feeling that you have where you think that it's needy to just even put the slightest bit of information as to where people could find you out online? That would be good, actually, if you've gotten over that.
Yeah, I think I have. Definitely, man. Because well, to a point. I still don't have social media, but that's really more of a, I have such a peace of mind not to have it. It's and it's never really been my thing, but I think even that may be starting to come to terms with, like, essentially, if you're an artist putting something out, you know, you need a wall to hang it on. And yeah, I think I definitely have come. The fact that it's needy, yes. I hearing that's a very. I hear that if I hear, and that's a very common thing that I hear amongst people who create. Actually, in a weird way, it's like there's more integrity if people find it without being led by you whatsoever, and I just find that very juvenile now. Like, I see it as like, you'll come. If I hear someone say it to me, I'm like, you should come out of that, I hope. But this is a very normal phase you're going through where I don't know what it is, but it's almost like to us, it's like maybe you look at like Van Gogh or something. I don't know. It's like if you found it and no one told you, he didn't tell you where it was, that somehow makes it an even greater piece of art because it was so good. The magnitude of it was so good that people were drawn to it without being cajoled. And I think that a lot of us feel like we're cheapening the quality of it if we had to like bring you in. It's almost like flyering for your own show. It's like if it was a ticketed show and I had to see, it's like Daniel Kitson puts a show out secretly and everyone comes to it. Whereas like we have to be like, please come in. But it's silly. It's a juvenile way to look at it. So yeah, definitely as far as you're concerned, relative to you, pal, yeah, I'm over it. Get it together, quite honestly.
Here's a good one. Have you taken the steps necessary to experiment with your stand-up as much as you did when you first started within the first year in an effort to push yourself into another level of development? Because I think I've thought of that a lot lately where I'm like, I used to be much more experimental because when you first start, you have no idea what you do. So you try everything, and then you find what you do. And then you're a little bit more hesitant to veer too far off that path. But I'm enjoying stand-up, but I do think that there's a level of it where you're really enjoying it. And it's like, I think that I want to free up. I'm getting a lot better at it, but I'm just free up more. Be like, why don't I try this? Why don't I just throw a guitar up there? Which, by the way, I would probably not keep using, but just that kind of thing. So I want to get freer with that. I feel like I've gotten a bit opaque in my experimentation. So how's that going?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely in the last year, I've completely given over to that. Absolutely. Because again, it's that thing of like, you think people know you're so infinitesimal, and that really hits you at some point where you're just like, you are free. There is no expectation. There is no final goal. There is no like, I don't know. It's a weird form of perfectionism where people want to be finished. Like, this is what I do and it's done. And it's not. And it's ever changing. And if you don't put too much thought into it, you can just allow that sort of to just change and evolve. So yeah, absolutely, man. And it's been great in the last year. It's like all these things you learn when you're starting out, you know, like things that you let happen to you because you don't feel like you should be anything yet, have started coming back. I'll go on. I would say that I just started going on and doing completely different to what I'm used to. Maybe I'd go on and try to tell a story, just anything. Yeah, definitely. And I think it just happened naturally by easing up on yourself in general with all of it. It just came naturally. And so I do it unconsciously now. I'll just do something silly. I don't know. Like, I just, take chances. And the answer to that is yes, man. And I recommend that for everybody. Never be afraid to go electric, man. Right.
Have you followed through with your resolution to experiment with working with someone else to actually build a show and attempt to sort of expand on what you already do? For the first time, I want to try to work with someone, like a friend who's like could direct it and really see what I could do in like 11 months. Mostly, I just bring these shows up. I don't even think about them, and I just go up and do it. And I want to see. I have a plan this year to spend like 11 months like really trying to do one. So did you follow through with that? Or did you just wait till June again? Name it something, buy an opening song on iTunes and call it a show?
Well, I'll have you know I named it in March. So, no, I didn't do like the director thing this year, but I've definitely realized that when it comes to the Edinburgh Fringe, I think there's an element of, there's a lot of guys that come up here that don't see, that are hesitant to kind of do anything out of the norm of what they see themselves being in a broader spectrum. I don't know how to explain that, but there's a lot of comics who just want to be great comics, and so they're trying to hone to be themselves, and they don't really have room in their head for something completely off the wall that doesn't really add itself to that vision. I don't know. I don't know if that even makes sense, but that's part of the thing of the Fringe that I've noticed is I go, well, when you're coming to the Fringe, essentially what you're doing is you should kind of just accept that there is a Fringe show, and it's like I'm not saying you can't do just a normal thing, and you absolutely can, and I do. I mean, my show is just like totally improvised and wild, and it's I like it. It's fun. But there's nothing wrong with with that experimentation thing. If you just decide, we're going to take a month, I'm going to create a complete anomaly. I'm going to do a one-man show. Because like I say, it is a one-man show festival, but it kind of is. And it's like, that may be. I just don't see myself as a one-man show guy. But that's not the point. That it's almost a point. You're not a one-man show guy. And the Fringe could be about, for 1 month, it's like Tom Waits. Tom Waits was always interested in people doing things that were completely out of the ordinary for themselves. Like, he would say things like, I want to see what Frankie Valli, like a lounge singer, like a Sinatra. What does Sinatra sound like playing guitar? Just like discongruous. So that's essentially what it can be for you, and I might be open to that with the knowledge of this is completely out of my comfort zone, ridiculous. Like Russell doing a one-man show. I don't know. Not this year, but maybe 2 years. Take 2 years, get a good person. So not yet, pal, but you just relax. It's only been a year.
Okay. A lot of this stuff, man, it's just kind of nice because I'm not wanting that much. Really, if I am enjoying stand-up at the peak, now that could be a good thing and a bad thing, that could be that's way too many eggs in one basket, or it's at the same time when it's working, it's so, I could be doing stand-up in this room with 6 people, and if I was really loving it and enjoying it, that's and I also think that everything sort of emanates from that, when that is right, everything works out. I don't know, so, like I said, I don't totally necessarily think in projects, but yeah. Yeah, but I also do think I do have that. It's it's like what I said about that thing about that, I've got that, it must have been the movies I watched as a kid. I've got that boxcar kid mentality where I'm I always sided with the guy with the holes in his gloves, the wisecracking, and I think I sort of am shifting into no, it's okay to have. So, have you attempted to try to take yourself into bigger, sort of what you perceive as more prestigious avenues, and how's that working out for you?
Yeah, definitely, because it is a mental thing. I mean, you place yourself in these. I was just saying the exact same thing. Obviously, I've still got that mentality. We're talking about industry and how I see them as this other thing. However, that gap has closed immensely, and the thing is, the more the difference between someone who you see as in this higher echelon and yourself is really just a mental thing. They've decided I can be in that. It's like you walk by a nice restaurant, and if you just go, I can't go in there, well, then that's it. But if you just go, I'm going to go in there, why not? Well, there you go. After a couple of times, it'll feel normal, and you'll be fine, and you'll be better off for it. So, yeah, definitely. I forget the question, but yeah, yes, no, have I placed myself in better? Yeah, man, it's just you do things for yourself, and I think it's better to come to things after a while than to do it too fast, especially when in concern with that specific thing. It's like the comedian who does his first 2 open mics and then he immediately emails a big agent or goes to a big club. It's like, someone told me a quote recently, it's never too late, it's always too early, which I think comes from Jay Leno or something, but that's a good point. I mean, in this kind of performance, I think you only get more experience and better. So yeah, definitely. I've put myself in better places, and instead of going, I can't. Here's the thing. No, I'll close that. Instead of assuming that I'm not invited to that I am not invited to a party, I'm aware that they didn't consciously not invite me. They may be happy to have me in there. They just didn't know I wanted to go. Whereas normally I would just walk by a big house party and be like, yeah, I'm not even gonna go because I know you guys don't want me. Fuck you. And it's like, you can come in, man. I didn't. Come on in. Oh, all right. Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm genuinely a pretty happy guy, actually, which is nice. Cause you know why? Cause I'm annoyingly like this with my girlfriend and anyone else. I don't know, maybe it's a Buddhist thing. You're just constantly gracious, But I think when you start stand up late, I mean, we really are doing this. This is pretty much as far as I thought it out. Like, if I was still working in an office 5 years ago, and you told me I was sitting in Edinburgh in Scotland, which I hadn't even left the country at that point, talking to you about being a comedian, I'd probably have a hemorrhage. First of all, how did I become a comedian? Second of all, what am I doing, Russell, when you look back over the last year, what is the memory that makes you the most happy?
So I don't know. I guess it's a good thing. There is no one single thing. I mean, like I said, listening to you talk, by the way, it's hilarious how much you define yourself by this thing. And it's just been a good experience. It's been a little bit cringy, but the thing for me is I need to relax even more. I've realized listening to you, because the center of your discontent is the fact that you clearly define your soul based on this craft that you do. It's all been good, man. I think the best memories I've had are just like, and I'm always aware of it. It's like just having any day in like London, just where I've been hanging out with friends, or like, and I usually hang out with just one person at a time. I don't know. So being around the flat, we got a new little place, and it all kind of is just one big, good memory, because it's all, I think that's a good sign, because like if you can point to, last year we went to Barbados for a day, and that's kind of like sad to me. That was it? Just Barbados? I don't even know, man. This is all good. The dude abides. It was like I can't pinpoint a day. My most immediate memories, talking to Simon before we started the podcast. It's lovely.
When you look back over this line of questioning done from 2016, is there anything you see now that you missed in hindsight?
Looking back on 2016, is there anything I missed? Yeah, I think the advice that I would have, and I'm always, so to answer your question, Russell, is there anything that I may have missed in 2016 that I now know that, hindsight 2020, I would tell you to watch out for? I think one of the most incredible sort of ideas that I've had, I'm always looking for ideas that destroy these like monolithic concepts that I originally had, these beliefs, like you've got to do it this way. And it's a beautiful thing when you evolve to the point that you go, I was totally wrong about that thing. And for me, when I started, I was always very averse to putting things out, because I felt like you're not ready. You're always not ready. I'm not ready. And years go by, and people go, oh, why don't you, man, you should be doing that. And it's like, I'm not ready. And I actually think that the act of presenting your creations furthers your development at an accelerated rate. So like, I would say not just in the last year, but all of the years, is just put stuff out, put it out. And again, nobody knows who you are, so it's not like the world saw it. I know you can think it that because you put it on YouTube, but like 100 views is, or just so yeah. So I came to that definitely halfway through last year. I've started putting things out, and it's been good, and I'm gonna put things out this year. But yeah, just in general, it's like, don't be afraid to like. I think that part of it is like, it's like making food and giving it to, what do you think? Too much salt? I mean, not that you should if you like it, keep the salt. Screw them. But you know what I mean. So yeah, just don't be such a hoarder, man.
That was Russell. I loved how he's become more calm and relaxed a person and a performer, and decided to stick to his guns, to not give in and become more social online. Although he has launched a podcast, which you can find a link to in the show notes. It's called Off the Grid, and I'm on an episode of it. So if you want to hear more from me, there's the best place to do that. I really liked how reflective he was, and how self-aware he was about how he's changed, and how he was able to even hear the inflections in his own voice from a year ago and be like, yeah, you need to calm down, dude. You need to just let things happen. Don't get too into yourself on this. So that was interesting, and I really appreciate him being so honest with himself and with us. If you're new here, please do remember to hit the subscribe button. If you're old here, please do remember to give us an honest, ideally positive review in iTunes. And either way, please do consider joining the Facebook group. It's called The Audio Time Capsule, and it's on Facebook, of course. In the group, I always pose one question that's inspired by the questions that were left by the guest. And this week, I'm going to ask you, are you about to launch some sort of online project? Or have you recently launched an online project? It could be a YouTube series or a podcast, or you're just starting to post on Instagram, where before you might have just been a casual viewer. What online projects are you starting and why? And if you have a link, do feel free to share it in a comment underneath this podcast. It'd be great to check out what everyone else is doing and the creativity that's behind the audience itself. The Audio Time Capsule is a Fruit That Got in Gravity's Way production for the internet. All elements were created by me, comedian Simon Kane, except for the music that was composed and recorded by David Jordan. Thank you very much for listening, thank you very much for subscribing, and thank you very much for rating and donating if you do. I'll see you all in about 14 days' time. Bye.